What up? Hey, I'm in Rockport, Massachusetts. It's nice out here. It's like low 60s, little ocean breeze rolling in, and just kind of like these nice little coastal houses all around. It doesn't get any better than this, man. So, yeah. Talking today about kind of some, I don't know, I guess a recurring theme that's going to come up again and again is my daughter's education, or lack thereof, by modern standards. As you guys know, I'm super passionate about not just being a blind member of the herd. There's no way to go through school for years and years and years and not just become just a product of your culture. So that was part of the reason why we chose not to send her to school. She went to school for a little bit through 5th grade, and then that was it. Another reason was, she has some learning disabilities and needs a lot more personal attention. But ultimately, one of the things that I came across that I thought was extremely powerful and something that she could take advantage of was the work of Stephen Krashen. Stephen Krashen is a linguist who specializes in language acquisition, how we acquire language. Not just our native language, but also foreign languages, which is a big hobby of mine now. So I watched like 10 hours of his lectures, and which is unnecessary. He says the same thing in every lecture, but it's hold on a sec. Hi. Don't want to be that douche filming in the neighborhood, even though I am that douche filming in the neighborhood. But his work basically shows that the best educational tool by far is reading. If kids have access to books, their performance in all subjects improves. So the writing improves and the reading level improves, of course, but they actually have better knowledge about science, history, and so on. So you can get a great education just from reading. And I think what's really great about it, we could talk a little bit about what his secret formula is, because it's not just any kind of reading. It's got to be, doesn't have to be, but it's got to be self-selected reading for pleasure. So you have to be the one choosing that reading. It has to be self-directed. And if you do that, you pay much closer attention, you remember it, you retain it, and you get so much more out of the experience. And I think what's so magical about reading as an educational tool, the ultimate educational tool, is that books specifically we're talking here, not just any kind of reading. I don't think it's reading itself, the activity. I think it's books specifically. But books are all written in perfect English or whatever language it's written in. They're just using more complex vocabulary. It is writing sentences that are more complex and elegant. It's really the highest manifestation of the language itself. And so, when you're like my daughter, who reads, she's grinding through about 3,000 pages a month, 36,000 pages a year, about 300 words on each page, give or take. We're talking about, what is that, 10 million plus words that you read per year in a super focused, attentive state because you're really engaged with the content. I'm not talking about the type of reading that, you know, you did in school where you were forced to read a certain book and you just kind of thought about, you know, that one time you saw Susie's underpants on the playground. Maybe that was just me, but if you're out there, Susie, what's up? No. But not just daydreaming when you're reading, but super engaged with the content. And as Stephen Krashen says, you know, fiction is the best because you get that drama, you get that build-up, and that puts this special imprint on your brain that makes things more memorable. It's not just information that you're kind of memorizing. I'll switch arms again. Still got to work on my shoulder endurance for these videos. But yeah, where was I? Yeah, Stephen is really adamant that it's got to be self-selected fiction reading for pleasure. And those who consume a lot of, you know, reading a couple hours a day, 100 plus pages, you multiply that over years and you can write better, you can speak better, you have a much bigger vocabulary from all the exposure to all those words that you don't get in average speech. And your speech and way of communicating is better. All that kind of makes sense, but the fact that you can, you know, the science that you come across in your stories in books is more memorable than taking a science class. That the geography that you come across in your stories is more memorable than taking a geography class. The history, obviously, much more memorable, even reading fiction, because the vast majority of fiction is still based on real things. So anyway, I think any serious person needs to be reading. Me personally, I didn't read any fiction for 30 years, and I'm still trying to rehab my fiction reading abilities after coming across Stephen Krashen and realizing that there is tremendous value in just consuming stories. You know, I read nonfiction exclusively for 30 years. I thought, and you know, my dad thought, he was one of the big reasons why I chose to do that. You know, he was like, why would you waste time reading? It's just a story. If you're going to read something, why don't you read something useful? Read nonfiction. Well, turns out that's not really the case. Reading nonfiction is useful, but I think reading fiction is actually even better. It's more memorable. You're more emotionally engaged. When you're more emotionally engaged, you're making different imprints on your memory that are a lot longer lasting. And things are vivid. You get pictures in your head. You know, all those things are basically seeding your mind with stuff that's far more memorable and meaningful. And yeah, you remember that long term. So really get a lot out of it. But anyway, I guess I'm not douche again. All right, I'm going to wrap it up though, guys. And see you tomorrow.